Good evening. Welcome to Politicket Podcast. Tonight we have Tina Canon, and Tina is the Republican nominee for the State Auditor. And quite a race so far, right?
Right. It's been a lot of fun. First of all, thanks for having me again. It's always fun to come in and talk. And yeah, won in the primary, so I am the Republican nominee.
So let's talk a little bit about that primary. That was quite an event. I mean, you have to cover the whole state.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. A statewide race for state auditor is a little challenging because it's not the race that everybody's the most interested in, and yet you're still covering the full state and trying to get support statewide. So it was definitely a challenge. We don't have the attention, so we don't get the donations, but we still have the same obligations.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard raising money. People don't realize how much money you need to run a statewide. Because media, everything like that, just costs you so much more. Text messaging to people.
Social media, even on when you're talking about that many voters, even sending emails it's really expensive to do. So those are not free. So you should appreciate it when a candidate sends you an email. Signing up for MailChimp with a statewide race is very expensive.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and a lot of people, feel like they're getting spammed and everything, but you have to be able to communicate to voters somehow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, they can opt out of the messages if they want to, right? On a text message, they could just
say stop. And
you just say stop, and it will stop sending it to them. But
right.
So what do you think your key?
Let's
go
ahead.
Back.
That is historic in that because I am the first Republican woman in a statewide race in Utah.
So
when I win in November, it will be the first time a Republican woman has won a statewide race.
Well, what about our
Deidre Henderson? She is
no. I mean, golly, they have an institute at Weber State named after
Olene Walker.
Olene Walker, yeah.
So Olene was never independently elected. She came on and replaced. After a resignation of the governor, she became the governor. So she was appointed as the lieutenant governor.
And then she ran.
And then she ran and did not win.
Oh,
so
that's right. That's
it's only happened once for a woman, and that was Jan Graham.
Oh,
so for Attorney General, and that has been 30 years ago. So it's been 30 years. So I'm proud of that. I think I did it on my qualifications and nothing else. And so I'm proud that we finally reached that. Utah has the oldest Republican women club in the nation.
But you didn't bring a gun to the fight. You brought a cannon, right?
That's right. That's right. I brought a cannon. And
so tell me a little bit about the details. How did you do that? I mean, you didn't have a big campaign budget.
Nope.
You covered the state, but what was the key, do you think, to that race?
Well, I lost 10 pounds doing it. It was a lot of work, and it's not a lot of sleep. And I didn't have the staff that I'd had in prior campaigns, so I relied a lot on family and friends to help and to cover those events. But we just started from the beginning, laying out what the schedule was to go to all of those county. We went to every county convention. We went to every Lincoln Day dinner. There were a couple events that people would say to me, oh, wow, do you have an opponent? So I hit it earlier than my opponent did, and then went to all of the county events, every opportunity I had to be in front of a voter, I got there. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but that's the most active part of the cycle. You meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then my husband was really good to remind me every time, because they'd always ask people to raise their hands if they were a state delegate. And my husband would say, now just remember that everyone else is a voter in the primary.
Yeah.
So if you just stay focused on every chance to meet and talk with a voter is a chance to meet and talk with a voter. So
now what's, this next race, this is interesting because now you made it out of the Republican primary. Actually at convention, right?
Yes.
You both qualified out of convention,
right?
For the ballot, and then but now you've got. What about your opponents now?
So I have a Constitution Party opponent and I have a Democrat opponent. So I think they have the same problems that I do. In it's still a statewide race, and it is still a hard race to raise money for. So to get your message out statewide is very difficult. So, and probably even more difficult for a little known party without a lot of infrastructure statewide, and hard for a Democrat in a statewide race in Utah. It has been that same 30 years since Jan Graham is the last time we've had a statewide Democrat election. So Jan Graham was the last time. So last I checked, I think we're a plus 24 state for Republican versus Democrat in the registration. So it leans very strong Republican. That doesn't mean I'm taking anything for granted. I was just counting just the senior centers in Salt Lake County. I have 15 of those in October.
To go visit.
In Salt Lake County.
So do you set up all that? Because without a lot of money, you don't have a big staff.
No, it's me and my daughter and my husband, and sometimes I can get a friend I can phone a friend. But keeping track of that is me. I've had to take time, because I work full time in the office, so I'd have to take time off. And I told someone last week, October is going to be really difficult. You'll probably see very little of me. I'm getting on a plane tomorrow, doing some networking in DC. Was at a networking event last week with state auditors from across the United States. So it's a really active schedule.
You came on as the deputy auditor, is that right?
I came on as the senior policy advisor, and
Okay.
then was made the deputy over the financial audit side.
Okay.
So yes.
So that's probably been a good transition for you.
Yes, I
Given
already
that
know. Now that's a double-edged sword, because I not only know what we do and how we do it and who does it, I know all of the problems and obstacles to getting it done. So I know really well what I'm getting into. And there are days I think, wait, I'm spending money to do this? Wait.
Yeah.
So
you're
the
paying,
reality of
you're
a
paying
campaign,
for the privilege of
I'm campaigning
So
for this.
you're the deputy auditor. Does that mean that you'll get a cut and pay when you
Yes,
become the
that's
auditor?
exactly what that means. I get a cut and pay
Interesting.
when I become the auditor. Yeah.
So
Utah is interesting in the way we set that. The pay is set in statute, and it's a percentage of what the governor is paid.
Oh, really?
So the governor has a lot of staff that make more than the governor.
Oh, interesting.
But he gets a house out of it too. So.
Yeah, but you don't get a house.
No.
Well, that's good. Hey, we're going to take a break, and we'll come right back.
All right.
Okay.
Hey Siri, how do I get to the state capitol?
John, the fastest way to get to the Capitol is to make a lot of empty promises, to get help from special interest groups and endorsements from politicians. You will also need to buy a better suit.
That's not going to work for me, Siri. You need to find another way.
John, listen to me. If you're going to win your race, you will need to play the political game. You also need to use more hairspray and buy a golden retriever. Also, a new phone case would be nice.
That's enough of this.
John, are you there? Did you just leave me on the road? Fine. Keep your principles, John.
My name's John Johnson. I'm not running to be part of a system, and I don't owe anyone special favors. I'm running to listen to and work for you. I'm running to get results.
Welcome back to Politic. We've got Tina Canon with us today. Tina, of course, a Republican nominee for State Auditor. So, we talked a little bit about the election, but let's talk about what the auditor does and what your vision is for the auditor's office going forward.
Okay. So the state auditor is the primary and the independent accounting firm for the state, for every government agency in the state. So every state runs a little differently, and Utah is one where we not only have oversight over state government, so that's all of the executive branch offices and the colleges and universities that are a state function, but we also have oversight over local government. So that's counties and cities also send in their budgets, their financial statements, and we are over review of their audits as well. So we're the premier accounting firm for the state of Utah. And based on the number of agencies over which we have oversight and the amount of money which that encompasses, we are the premier audit firm for the state.
You know, a lot of people don't really understand what the state's function is. I know an audit going on right now is it's really an election audit, but more over the signature gathering, right?
Right. So we have,
and you weren't involved. You're kind of tied off, and which is good since you're running for election,
since I'm a candidate and had gone through that process, it's probably best that I'm not part of that audit. But you have to remember that we have 3 different types of audits that we do. There's a financial audit where we're certifying the financial statements, which is what determines your bond rating for the state. So we have to certify that those financial statements are accurate. But we also do compliance audits. Are we following the law? And then are we doing performance audit, which is, are we doing that effectively, following the law, following the financial rules effectively and efficiently? So how are you doing as far as, are there better ways to do this than what you're actually doing? So there are 3 different types of oversight that we have. And the election audit falls somewhere between that compliance and performance over, are they actually following the rules and the way the legislature has set it up for how we're overseeing the signature gathering process and how a candidate gets on the ballot. And then once those signatures are collected, are they actually verifying correctly, and what are those metrics that they're using? Are they staying within an acceptable standard for that? And that's really what that election audit was doing. And it's important for multiple reasons. Anytime there is not trust in the system, those type of audits can come in and either provide, here's where your weaknesses are, here's where you need to improve to improve trust in the system, or provide the trust of, look, this is going really, really well. Our audit showed that they were following standards, and that based on what they had done, the results, you can trust the results, which is what we had found. So that audit could have gone either way, and I think that it turned out the best for a voter to have more confidence in the signatures that were gathered, were verified correctly, and they reached the threshold that they needed to reach to be a candidate. And that's what it showed.
Yeah, very good. So there's another audit going on too that's separate, this legislative audit that's going on. But that's the legislative auditors really play a different role than the state auditor does, right?
Yeah, there are some areas that we overlap, and you'll see, like in this case where we were both looking at it, and I thought that was great. Actually, the more people that you have eyes on the problem, and the more oversight it has, the more assurance that you have that everybody's up on the up and up. Everything they looked at was, it's hard to get collusion in that big of a group, let's put it that way. So it's hard to mess that up. And that's what happens in OLEG. There are a lot of things that we've both done. We both did property tax. But OLEG is able to go in and see, okay, this was the intent of the law. Is it following what we intended it to do? And are there ways that we could recommend for improvements?
So that's really what their role is, to say, here's what the law was, here's what the legislature thought the law was, here's what's happening, now what can we do to improve that process?
And so they do a lot of recommendations for policy. Our job is not to create policy. Our job is to say, did you follow the policy as it exists? So our roles are slightly different in that, is we're just checking, did you follow the law, and did you follow, were you smart in how you did it? So it's a little different, but they're both really important functions for a well-functioning government. Yeah. And
I spent some time on the phone with John Dougall over the audit of the signatures, and I felt like he had answers to a lot of the questions and did a thorough job.
Yeah.
Some of the criticism coming in is saying, well, he was just sampling stuff, but yeah, that's what an auditor does, right?
And it was interesting to listen to staff. Like I said, I wasn't on it, but to listen to people who were, and they talked about exactly how much time that takes. Because there's been a lot of criticism over, should that get, the verification of signatures all go to Davis County? It's a contract with Davis County. And as it's written in statute, does that mean that that those should be reviewed in their individual counties where the signature or the voter lived? Should their county clerk be verifying their signature? That's not for us to decide.
That's a legislative.
That's a legislative decision.
And that will probably come out in the legislative audit.
Exactly.
I think.
So those types of things over, should we have a certain a higher percentage of accuracy in the signatures? That's going to be up to that legislative audit to determine. Are they too low in what the standard is? Our audit showed, based on what the standard is today, they followed the code and they followed the standard. It's not up to us. Should it be done in Utah County? Should it be done in Davis County? It was, this is where it's being done. Was it done correctly? So
Yeah, because the
there'll be more to
legislative
look at now.
auditors are going to come up with some policy recommendations to
Right.
clarify
Right.
maybe the existing code.
And they're meeting with concerned citizens before, where they went through, I think there were 24 concerns, individual concerns that were shared, and those are different than what our office was looking at, but they're still important questions to bring. I would call it, in the accounting world, would call it positive assurance that it's working. Right. And so that's a different standard that OLAG will come back with. But I'm hopeful that both will come back with the process is working as it is. Now, it's going to be up to the legislature whether or not they keep SB 54 and they continue to allow the signature gathering process. That's going to be a political question that you'll get to answer in your job.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So what do voters need to know about Tina Canon and this race that you're running? What would you like mom and pop at home when they're about to fill out their ballot? What do you want them to know about you?
That I have a passion for honest, ethical government, and that this role combines that passion for honest, ethical government and my accounting background. So it is like the mothership called me home. I really enjoy my job, and I really enjoy the opportunity to see the problems and then find a way to provide insight. Because not every audit goes like the election audit. We just did one in Grand that's been a little controversial, and we've now withheld money from an agency in Grand County itself. And sometimes that's not as fun.
Right.
But it is still a necessary part of oversight of government. And it helps everyone in the process.
So why are you the person for that job?
Because, going forward?
Yeah.
Well, because we're not taking a knife to this gunfight. We're taking a cannon.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what it's like. Government oversight isn't necessary. Where we're mentioned in the Constitution in Article 1, Section 7, I think, 7 or 9. I'm on the spot. But where a review of the finances is part of the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, that there will be a periodic review of the finances of government. And that's what we do. We're that periodic review. We go over it with a fine-tooth comb. So you want someone who understands accounting, and you want someone who is passionate about exposing waste, fraud, and abuse. And waste happens in a lot of different ways in government. And abuse and fraud are a little easier to define, but waste happens in a lot of different ways in government. So understanding how government works and that background, having been in local government, I think is also an advantage. And having been in the office, I already know how we do all of these things.
Very good.
So,
well, congratulations on your victory in the Republican primary. We look forward to the November election, and where can people find out more about you?
TinaCanon.com. So it's really easy. Okay. But I want to shout out to the State Office of the Office of the State Auditor. And if you have any concerns about your local government, you can always report your concerns over waste, fraud, and abuse to auditor.utah.gov or to hotline.utah.gov.
Very good. So. Tina Canon, great to have you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
TinaCanon.com, right?
Yes, TinaCanon.com.
Nice to have you back.
Thanks for the invitation, John.
Yeah.
It's fun. Always fun.